Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Thursday, the 19th day of October, 2023. Well, I hope you're having a good week. Let me get a little closer here to the desk so I'm not leaning all over the place here. Let's take a look at the Oracle card. We'll start out with that today from the Wild and Sacred Feminine deck. I love this deck. It's very cool. Anyway, here we have the lioness. And the keyword to that is courage. It reminds me, if you're familiar with the tarot and the major arcana, then you are aware of the strength card, and it shows the goddess holding the lion's head lovingly in her hands. It's taming the wild within and expressing courage and all of that in a similar way that this is. But here you're to step in your own power. Bravery is a choice, and you should acknowledge the fear and choose courage that you might feel and choose courage instead. Risk vulnerability and speak your truth. It's not always easy to do, but it's like, well, what would happen if I did that? You know, you can ask yourself that. What would happen if I did? And the world doesn't come to an end. It might upset people sometimes, but that's their problem, really. But especially in the world today, it's to meditate on the lioness, to be the lioness in your life is probably a very good thing. So, anyhow, today's oracle card is the lioness and courage. All righty. Let's go ahead and take the rune from the Elder Futhark bag to get us started. The runes are the significator for the reading, as always. The Elder Futhark rune represents the above side of things, or the higher self side of things. And then the Geomancy rune would reflect the ego side of things, or the below side. Let's see what we have. Well, we have Tiwa's. Well, right in keeping with the lioness card. This is Tiwaz represents the god Tyr and the spiritual warrior within. It's the 17th rune of the Elder Futhark, which is an 8 numerology. Again, that's the same number as the strength card in the major arcana is 8. And so although 8 can represent material recognition and approval and leadership and all of that, you're really looking at strength here. Strength of purpose, letting higher awareness govern that and not have it be an ego-centered kind of thing. It's about faith and justice and oaths, and can have to do with legal matters. It can indicate that as well. Let's see what the Geomancy rune. I'm eager to find out now. Today's numerology for the 19th day, 9 and 1 is 10. 10 reduces to 1, so that's talent, leadership, it's new beginnings. Let's see what we have here. Oh, well, cool. Yeah, Albus, like in Harry Potter with Albus Dumbledore. There's also a Rubius, for Rubius Hagrid. It was kind of cool that she used those particular names here from Geomancy for some of her characters. Here would be Albus. That's the sage or wisdom, clarity as well. And then its opposite, its complement would be Rubius, would be the other side of that, a misuse of force. So truly a true expression, I think, of the worst of the ego and the best of higher awareness. Really, is in this particular dichotomy. But again, this is Albus, and it's wisdom. So, you have the strength then or the wisdom to act in strength today, and a higher strength, higher awareness-based strength. Being able to see the bigger picture and to understand. Sometimes we react without really trying to understand something. Like if somebody is acting out of character, if they're upset or they're angry or whatever, or maybe they're overreacting to something, that could come from something else. That could represent really a trigger in their lives. And what you're experiencing with them is a triggered type of a moment. And so if you can, I knew somebody like that one time, And then I found out that some real tragedy had happened in his life. And it dawned on me how that could then bring him to where he was at that point in his life. And so I think Tiwaz and Albus, how that would apply to something like that is, rather than judging this guy harshly, to wait and say, well, what's really going on here? So acting with wisdom so that you can, stand tall in your spiritual warrior presence, essentially, to act on behalf of somebody else, to protect somebody else, even if it's protecting them from your own judgment. You see what I'm saying? But let's go ahead and take a look at the cards and see what they have to say, because that's kind of a heady way to start a Thursday. But I think that this is one of those times where acting with wisdom means waiting, and being certain of what you see. The warrior will wait. The warrior won't just run into battle. They'll observe, and they'll get intel, and they'll plan, and they'll do all of these things before they necessarily act. Sometimes you have to act right away if somebody's in danger or something, but otherwise, there's strategy involved in it all, and I think there's strategy involved in both Tiwaz and Albus, and so I think that maybe this may have to do with being a little strategic today. In your reactions and your decisions that you make about things, to be sure you really know what's going on before you do. It could just be an anomaly that you're seeing happen, and the less said the better, till later, and then maybe the person will say, gosh, I'm so sorry that I acted out the way I did. This is what I was going through. And see, if you had reacted negatively or harshly in that moment, then it wouldn't have given that person the space to then come back and say, well, I messed up a little bit here, and this was what was going on, and I appreciate you not yelling at me for it, So I think you end up with a better moment when all is said and done. So I've shuffled, I've cut the deck. I'm going to take the first 3 cards here. If we need more, didn't we on Monday, didn't we end up with 4 cards? Yeah, we did. Oh, well, and we have the 7 of Wands. We have 3 suits represented here: Wands, Swords, and Pentacles. No major cards, no court cards. But the 7 was the 4th card I drew on Monday to add a little more information to that particular reading. So it's interesting that that's here, especially with Tiwaz, because in many respects, the 7 of Wands is about standing your own ground. Asserting yourself. Here you have a lot coming in on the guy. You see that in the 8. The 8 of Wands, we also had that on Monday, where a lot's coming in, and eventually, you have to stand your ground a little bit about it, maybe. But here we begin the reading with it, and aligning with both Tiwaz and Albus, you're getting above it to understand what's really happening. That would be Albus. Also a little bit of Tiwaz. But with Tiwaz, you're standing your own ground here. That's the energy here. Observation is part of it with the 7, where you're, again, letting things settle out so you really understand what's going on. It's interesting, I drew these cards after I was talking about all of that, about giving that example there. But I think that it's relevant. I think that we react too soon. Sometimes we need to take a step back. In this case, he's getting higher, but he's taking a step back and defending himself, at the same time. He's not going to allow anything here to affect him until he understands what that is. So he lets things settle out, and he lets things come to rest, and he's standing his ground. He's not going to give an inch until he understands further. But the other thing is, he's in a defensive posture, so he's not reacting. He's not advancing and acting in a way that is harsh or judgmental, or before he truly understands what's going on. Once he does, he now has to make a decision, and he has to do it dispassionately. I love this card because not only is it from the suit of swords, but you see water behind it. Swords is the air element, whereas again, wands is the fire element, or an expression of will or creativity. It could also mean new opportunities, all kinds of things. But here, I think it's an expression of will. But once you know a little more about the situation, now you have to make a decision about it, don't you? You see the little moon up there in the maiden form. So there it could be a decision that takes you in a new direction, basically. But you do it dispassionately. There's still some emotion going on here. You see the water is not completely smooth, but she's turned her back to that, and she's in a neutral ground. You see this dual line of demarcation here, separates from whatever she's feeling, and now she's getting over here, whatever emotion that was created here with this fire element. She's basically turning her back to that. She sits on a stone bench. Her eyes are blindfolded. Her arms are crossed. There's a sword in each hand. So there's an element of balance here. She needs to do it in a way where there's a neutral aspect to it. Where she's not influenced by emotion. She's not influenced by whatever's going on in the 7 anymore, at least not in terms of wanting to do something. Here she wants to get away from all of that, turn her back to all of that, and make that decision in as neutral and dispassionate a way as possible. It's purely based on reason. It's not allowing anything else to come in. She's looking at the facts, and she's going to make her decision. You see that in the 8 of Swords as well, where the woman is bound and blindfolded, and the swords surround her behind her. They just kind of surround her this way. And she's standing in wet, soppy sand, so there's emotion going on in that as well. But she's turning off the noise around her from other people, the influence of other people, and the influence from herself. And in many respects, this is related to that. Only here you don't have all the swords around her and all that, and she's not bound as well. But she just needs to make a rational decision about whatever is happening here. And then when she does, a new path can open. And again, we have a 1 energy, 1 numerology for today of new beginnings. She stood her ground, essentially. We'll just say it's a she. She stood her ground. She got the information she needed. She made the decisions she needed without a bunch of emotion and influence that way coming in. So she's accessing the higher wisdom of Albus and the spiritual warrior within of Tiwaz, the courage of the lioness. And a new path is opening. Here you see the lilies growing here. The white lilies. You see the path here. You see the hedgerow that opens up to an archway. It grows into an archway, and then you see it continuing there. You see mountains in the distance, so we know there could be some challenges ahead on this new path, but it's one that could be lucrative because you see the unseen hand reaching out from the darker cloud, holding a large coin. And so whatever path that opens, it could be one that brings you more material security. So I think that this is a really, I don't know, I can turn the sound off of my phone, but it still beeps and the alarms go off and all of that. I don't know. What's the point of the volume control if it's going to do that? Anyway, I think that in terms of the new path that's opening, and however, whatever it's going to bring in terms of material security for you. First, you have to see what's happening here, and you have to stand your ground and protect yourself, especially because maybe, if these are opportunities or new paths, maybe it's a little overwhelming, and you've got to choose from one. You choose one from all of them, but at the same time, there's an element of protection here with the 7 where you don't want to go and do something that's going to impact your material security in a way that's going to lessen it, obviously. And so letting things settle out, so that you can really see what's going on here in the 7 is going to be very important today. And then make your decision. Get out of the emotion of it, get out of the excitement of it, get out of all of that, because that tends to you get excited about something and you don't really know everything you need to know about it, well, then you can make a decision again where, off the cliff you go. And if you just had waited a little bit and turned off that excitement so that that's not influencing you. You don't want any emotions influencing the decision that you make, because again, it can take you down a path that's not very good. Once you've done that though, then hopefully the choice that you've made is going to be lucrative today. That's what the cards seem to indicate. So that's kind of an easy one. But I find the synchronicity between the Lioness card and Tiwaz and Albus, and having the courage to be able to look at things while still protecting yourself, and then making that decision without letting emotion come into it, that can sometimes be a really tough thing to do, especially if you really, really, really want something. That's really cool. I really want that. But in the end, it may not be what you expected it to be. So try to make, if this is true for you today, try to make the decision in as dispassionate a way as possible, and then have the courage within to do what you want to do and take that path, to take that new opportunity, whatever it is. Because it may, after you discover, maybe the ones you're thinking about, maybe a couple of them you're just going to discard and say, well, I don't think so. So maybe she's thinking about all 6 of them down here, and she's having to make a decision between them all. She's done her research. And now it's just time to sit back and think about it. What makes the most sense today? So, and then the Ace of Pentacles is suggesting that the new path could be quite lucrative, whichever one it is you choose. And so, but again, do it in an informed way. Albus is saying, do it with, go into it with full clarity. I mean, as much clarity as is possible, because sometimes, you only know what you're going to know about it, and you have to take the leap of faith, right? And that's part of Tiwaz. But at the same time, if your gut's telling you, I don't know about that, then maybe you need to listen to that and let that be part of your decision-making process. And then who knows, maybe something wonderful can open for you, and the choice you make may ultimately be lucrative in the long run. So I don't think we need a 4th card here today. I think that we're doing fine with what we have. I just think the synchronicities between all of it it's interesting. Stepping into your own power with a lioness, risking vulnerability and speaking your own truth, stating what you want, irrespective of the of maybe it's not what someone else wants, but it's what you want, and you have a right to do that. What you need matters as well, in other words. But again, get above it all. Try to see things from a higher perspective, one that's not as reactive and not as emotional, because let's face it, we want all kinds of things. I just saw an advertisement for, I think, every item that Le Creuset makes, all the pots and kitchen stuff and all of that. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, but the price was insane. It's like, no. And so as much as I might want that, that's not happening, because, I did this. It's like, yeah, I don't think I can do that. I don't. First of all, I don't need it. It just would be cool to have it. That's all. Because they're really nice stuff. They're really nice, pots and pans and stuff, right, that they have. I like that cast iron stuff. It's kind of fun. I have a little bit, but I don't have any Le Creuset. They're very, very expensive because they're very high quality. So, not an ad for Le Creuset by any means. It's just an example of, I wouldn't be going down a path of being lucrative at that point, right? I'd be penniless after buying all of that. So that wouldn't work out too well. So that's the thing. You take a look at all of it. You come to a dispassionate decision based on reason, and then you can walk the new path, right? So anyhow, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a really good weekend. We're supposed to, I think it was, what did it get to up here? 85 yesterday, I think it was. We're just like, you know, because today's the 19th. I guess we're going to have a couple more days like that. And then they're talking snow. Really? So I have to go out and pick some more tomatoes to get the rest of those, and as I may not have the ability too much longer. The Hungarian paprikas, though, are hanging in there in the greenhouse because we put heat on them every night. So anyway, they're still harvestable, and we'll see how long that lasts. Eventually, it's just not going to, but at least for maybe a little while longer, I can get some more of those. But so for those of you that live in still gardenable spaces, I'm envious. But really, it's such a huge thing to do the gardens. It's just nice to have it go away for a little while, because then in January, December and January, I'm looking at seed catalogs and ordering things, and and then we're starting seeds in the house, and so we have all of that to do, and planning, and getting the garden spaces cleaned out and ready. So it's a never-ending thing, really. So I guess I am really glad to have the downtime. I think if I lived in a place where I could garden all year long, I don't know, that might be too much. So I might have like an enforced fall there and winter, whether we actually had it or not. So just to give me some time to do other things. But anyway, thanks for watching, and have a wonderful weekend. There were two more, my husband got a picture of them, two more raccoons up in a tree last night. So we're like, oh geez, here we go again. But the chickens were all in their house, so nobody got hurt or worse. So, but it's just never ending. We have a place where wildlife likes to come and be, and there's nothing we can really do about that because of the way it is here. It's like living in a park or the woods, or trees everywhere, and all kinds of things to eat, and the apples are everywhere. So they're having a feast out there right now. So I don't know what to say. But the whole thing that happened this last summer with the roosters and the one hen and the raccoons was just too much. I just can't take it anymore. Anyway, so that's what we're going to be contending with this weekend, is we're going to be watching, on patrol, protecting the chickens. So anyway, we'll talk again on Monday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.